reflexive thing of the market just being what it is in Alex's awesome little reflexive ecosystem that he already has right now. I mean, I'm talking about the current way it is, and not even considering the V2 side of it, how it may be in the future. That the reflexivity of that yin and yang, advantage on one side, advantage on the other, may be even cooler for having even longer conversations like we used to back in the day about strategies and things that we could have just in this little ecosystem that we call icosahedron in the first place, which warrants a lot of good conversations about those things too, right? It's worth it.
Could you talk to the possibility that some people may stay on the old system, and actually, is there any chance that a group of people could then exploit the fact that everyone else has migrated across and benefit from keeping that system going?
Maybe in the aspect of like any of the HSIs that are currently in the marketplace now that have like days and days and days to wait, like after the version 2 has came out, they may have less competition. That might give them an advantage to be able to get those HSIs at that time, but the timing that for that to happen, it'll be short-lived because Alex is going to have a timeline on how long that you can actually migrate those things for. Like, yeah, Watts's you can migrate forever, right? There's no timing on it, but the HSIs will, right? Your Hedron stakes and your Icosa stakes that you have that are on app.icosa.pro, they will. Right? If you don't migrate them with a certain period of time, then you're stuck on version 1 with those. And you have to start all over again in version 2 if you waited past that time. So even if they did try to play the game and wait the days and have less competition and go get into the marketplace and try to get those things for 90% discounts because nobody else is bidding against them, then it's within that time period of being able to get the HSI and then migrate all those HSIs that you just won over to the version 2. Then I see there's an advantage there, yeah. But that would be an intention of somebody not migrating so that they can migrate more, right? Not in the aspect of somebody just not migrating at all and then taking advantage and running, right? Because the advantage would be in the migration and in what I just said there, right? There may be other things because you just asked questions. But
am I wrong in saying that if you were the only person who didn't migrate, you could use the system, you could create HSIs and then pick them up in the auction really, really cheap because there's no one else on your...
Yeah, but that would just be you. That would leave you with a net neutral, right? Like if I go make a stake in HSI for $300 and then go put it in the auction and buy it for myself for $20, then I just spent $320 for the same thing.
No, but I think the auctions can start at less, so you might be able to buy it back for less. I'm just wondering if anyone could put stuff through the system.
The only way that would work is if there was more than one of you doing it, right? If somebody else put an HSI in there and then you bid at it at the beginning auction, then you're getting the whole entire value. But if I go make one for $300, then I go put it in to the auction and the minimum bid is $5, then I not only did I already spend the $300, but now I'm going to have to bid against it on myself with that $5. So now it's $305 total. I didn't win anything. It wouldn't make sense. It just doesn't simply make sense unless there's other people that are involved.
What about when that borrowing threshold hits and people are borrowing on the old version? Are there any not exploits, but can you game the system because you wouldn't have any competition from borrowing and then liquidating yourself and then buying stuff cheap?
Well, I mean, if you thought that the price of Hedron was going to go down because of the migration and stuff, like the version 1 Hedron was going to go down in price, which the migration itself will not cause that because the assets that get put into the contract, they're gone forever. Like the version 1s disappear forever. It's going to actually cause for the version 1 assets to become very scarce. If there's a lot of people that are going into the migration, there's going to be less and less version 1 Hedron, less and less everything being migrated into it. The Icosa is going to disappear, Hedron's going to disappear, HSIs are going to disappear. Everything's going to disappear that goes over there. And if you're the only one left on the other side, then you're in a very volatile area, right? If people were still using the marketplace, then and you're the only one sitting on the staking protocol, then you're going to get a large amount of the rewards, like 100% of them. If you're still in the Watsa thing and people are still using the protocol on version 1, then uh, it's not going to really be a benefit to you unless all those people migrate all those other watts and leave you sitting there with the pool count, right? Like that's another thing you're going to watch too. Like right now, if I go look at my pool share and it's whatever it is, right? 1%, let's say, and 50% of the people migrate over and 50% of those people are higher than me, then I'm going to watch my percentage go up like a lot. But the thing is the auction house is not being used to its full capacity, right? And by the time that more auctions get through to where you can actually use them, it's going to be 90 days. And if he has that limit set for being able to do the migration at 90 days, then you lose the gamification of that, right? And you may actually get stuck on the version 1 with some of those things, garnering not much, if any, participation on the version 1 side because the marketplace just isn't being fulfilled with having those mechanisms that are paying you out. Yeah, I mean, like, he can't really shut it off either, right? Like, all the smart contracts are going to be there forever because they're immutable. And he has the auction house and app.iCustom.pro on an IFPS. There's always going to be availability for you to run the website on your own server and be able to do the marketplace. So all that stuff will always be there forever. There's nothing that can be done about that.
Well,
so
hex stakes always meant Hedron, so it's not. Well, yeah, they'll meant Hedron, right? So it's not going away.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no way for it to go away ever. And you'll probably be able to migrate your hex stakes, your native hex stakes too, right, over to this version 2 migration thing, so that way you can have them to see them and what they do, right? Like, and when you migrate, like right now, they make Hedron version 1 that you get, right? But if you migrate that hex stake, that native hex stake that you have, over to the new system, then it may just like not need you to, it may not even need to be migrated because like since you already have your native stakes made, then it may just acknowledge that that's attached to your wallet and then appropriate it on the front end that you have this much mintability on the version 1 side of these old version 1 assets and then on the version 2 side with only getting version 2 assets.
Native
sure how
state
that
just stays, like native state can't be moved, right? Hence so yeah, native state just stays as it is, obviously. And when you have a native state, you can now just mint 2 different things, like what we call legacy Hedron or whatever, and then the new one. So you could just mint twice, basically.
So it's exactly like what I said. The new version, when you mint your Hedron, it'll be version 2 on the new migrated side, and you'll still have your native stakes that are operating on the old version that you'll still be able to mint your version 1 off of. That is kind of an advantage, I guess, during the 90-day thing, that you may have that potential. But I think that Alex said something about not allowing for minting to happen during that. So the potentials that we think that people will go to V2, V1 may become a hell of a lot more clear at that moment.
No, I don't see V1. I don't think it'll be abandoned, honestly. I even see it being more, because our community, at least I feel that it's not going to be like when ETH migrated and separated from, the ETH W came out, or that's the original, that's the other ETH, but the new contract, I see us actually using the V1 perhaps more than, it's not, I don't think it's going to be abandoned. I kind of feel like people will still use it. The auctions are attractive.
Well, I mean, like, let's not forget also that as those things happen, it may change your mentality. As things like people are migrating, there may be liquidity providers that are in there that migrate too. So you may lose the only amount of support that actually keeps cryptocurrencies going and driving a price is the fact that people are providing liquidity. So if you get a large portion of liquidity providers that say we're not supporting one version and we support another, then you're going to have to find those people to replace them. Otherwise, you'll just be participating in a protocol with no feasible, reasonable way in and no feasible, reasonable way out. You could participate, but you may be doomed or whatever based off of whatever happens at that time, right? I think that like right now is a good time to talk about potential. When we have version 2 to look at to see if there potential increases or decreases on people being incentivized to go to the version 2 or not. And then afterwards, after the 90-day period, where does the dust settle, right? Who wasn't getting information when they needed to and was actually away from their computer for a whole 90 days and they missed out, right? Like what about the conversation that we have when version 2 comes out and the migration is going on, and it's we have all the information that we need, and we make our predetermined judgment on what we think that the community is going to do, and we kind of roll with that on knowing that could change at any moment. And then it's like the last 10 days. 80 days went by, it's the last 10 days, and we're having conversations like, well, Godwale hasn't migrated yet. He's still on version 1 with all this stuff. Like, what do we do? Like, is he coming with us, or is he going to stay on version 1? And who makes those decisions to follow that guy around, right? And who says that there's a benefit to have him involved in version 2 or not, right? Everyone's going to feel a different way about it. They're going to feel like there may or may not be risk with having such a big whale, and some people may feel comforted that there's a big whale, right? Like, who's to say who feels what way, right? So I think it'll just get even more confusing and more indeterminate on actually making a decision on what's actually going to happen. But I think it all garners with the liquidity providers and getting in and out to be able to be participating with the protocols in the first place, right? So if you're going to be involved in the middle of it, right, like you have to make a decision going one way or the other, that's the toughest part of the whole thing. For everyone else that's just sitting on the sidelines that's waiting to dump into it so that they know which one to go into, then they're going to have all the same questions we are, but they're going to be right. They're going to try to guarantee that they're right. So, like, you know, I'm kind of big on what the potentials are. If you go 100, if there's like 4 different avenues and only one of them is going to be the lottery winner, there's going to be all different types of people. There's going to be people that look at all 4 avenues and say the other 3 are garbage, I'm not doing it, and they put 100% into one out of the 4 sides. And there's going to be people that put into all 4 sides, and there's going to be people that put into 2 and ignore the other 2, right? And one of those 4 options is going to be the wing lottery ticket. All 4 of them might have a good benefit, but one of them's definitely going to win, right? Which one is it? Which option out of the 4 options do you take? And how do you try to mitigate the risk of going all in, or you don't? You just throw caution to the wind and hope that you chose the right avenue of Bitcoin Classic or Bitcoin, or Ethereum Classic and Ethereum, and this and that and the other, right? Like, you know, like, as long as we're all talking together, then we can kind of bring these understandings to fruition to maybe make better judgment calls on those things. But I have a feeling it's going to get crazy. Like, there's a lot of that's going to happen. With the migration, completely disappears. It's burned. It's gone forever. So, like, imagine that you're the guy that's sitting in version 1 and you have no idea about version 2 and this migration is happening. But every day, you're not coming to the Telegram to listen to nothing. You just go to app.icosa.pro, and that's the only thing that you go to. It's maybe the only thing that you realize actually exists about the whole thing. And you monitor your positions, your pool positions, right? And then all of a sudden, within a week, you realize that your pool positions are like doubling. And you're like, what the f is going on? Like, phase for that same reason.
Amazing fundamental for Hedron. So at the moment, he's talking about if you mint the 10x bonus, it goes down in those 1% or those 10% increments. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what about this? He takes a snapshot of everybody's Hedron position at launch on the 10x bonuses. Then he calculates how much Hedron you've actually got left in your wallet or your staking, and he calculates that as a percentage. So for instance, let's say you've dumped 50% of your Hedron and you've still got 50% of your 10x, then basically you lose 50% of all your 10x bonuses. So your 10x bonus now goes down.
Your previous acts caused for your demise.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is new protocol, and it's a new era, and everybody knows that those 10x bonuses have kind of kept the price down. You get new investors who think, well, I don't want to buy because I'm just exit liquidity. I push the price up and I'm exit liquidity for the dumpers who just got a big freebie. So basically it rewards good behavior. It still gives people whatever, you know, if they've sold 50% of their Hedron since launch, they basically reduce their 10x to a 5x. So it's based on a percentage of your behavior. So anyone
that already kind of happens, right? Like, the behavior is the person is minting and dumping. Well, if that behavior is that, then every time that they decide to do that, they're reducing their mintability by that 10%, like you said. And every time that they do it, so they're only going to get 10 more mints. If they've already minted 10 times or they minted whatever, then they're going to lose that value. So what it's going to do, now just hear me out, is it's going to change the psychology, because technically, the only time that those guys can have the amount that they've dumped previously, because it was 2 years before Hedron launched and gave them that backlog of that amount to dump in the first place, right? So that means technically to have that same size of dump happen again, they got to wait a whole nother 2 years. Right. Otherwise, they're not really causing for the price to go down as individuals. Right. So it's definitely going to make them rethink. They may have to wait 2 years. And if they do 10 of them, then that's 20 years that they would have to spread this out with this new mechanic that he has for every single person. If they want to have the same dump, and 20 years is longer than what the stakes are even going to be capable of doing anyway. So it's kind of forcing them to have to reduce their mintability no matter what they do.
Is that it would put a lot of so for instance, let's say you suddenly realize, oh my god, I've actually sold 100% of my that means I'm not going to get any more bonuses. If I've sold 50%, I'm going to go down to a 5x if I had a 10x. Right, so that immediately gives Alex an excuse to go and cull all those bonuses. Not only that, if he does it smart, he could even say, listen, if you replenish what you have sold, then you get your 10x bonus back, which puts buy pressure on the price and counterbalances the fact that you've sold, because you've got to now go to the market, or there's going to be a rush to the market to try and get back what you've sold or to increase your percentage. So there's some game theory there. It's like, well, how much do I increase my percentage? How much is the price going to go up? So there's a pumper mental. I mean, it's just a really good excuse for Alex to cull all the dumpers and actually get rid of some of the dumpers and penalize other dumpers. I just thought it was such a, I mean, look, I'm a 10x bonus guy myself, so and I've bought and I've sold, and I wouldn't know what my percentage is. I'm hoping that I've acquired more Hedron than I had, in the downturn, but I could be affected by it too. But what it does is it gets all the Gunthers out of the system. It gets anybody who's literally just dumped every bit of Hedron that they've had out of the system, so that they can't dump later on. Because we know that they'll be on better behavior, but at some point they're going to go, well, okay, I'm going to lose 10%. Price has gone up, so everyone's pushed the market up. All the new people have pushed the market up, wanting to get into Hedron. Those guys have got free money, and we know that they'll go, well, do you know what? It's worth minting all my Hedron now just to extract value from the system. I just thought it was an idea that's worth putting to Alex, because it, as I said, it rewards good behavior and it penalizes those who have literally just taken their freebie, because it's a new protocol. So
he was even considering taking away the 10x altogether. Just whoop, it's all gone, no more of it. So I think that he's taken consideration into the gamifying of it, and the reasons why he is doing it the way that he wants to do it is because maybe there's some other technical things that we're not aware of, that when he releases these multiple smart contracts that may be tied together and cause each other to maybe even make other smart contracts that do other things, right, that you may have control of, may warrant to coerce people to mint and reduce that mintability. We don't know yet. We have no idea, right? And talking to Alex about those types of things that aren't released yet and information that he hasn't released yet is in a way trying to coerce him to give information away that he may not want to, and the reasons why he's decided that he wants to do that 10x, 9x, 8x thing per mint the way that it is. We just don't know. You know what I mean? There's no way to know.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just think it's worth putting the proposal forward, just in case he hadn't thought about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I will. I'm not saying that I won't, right? Obviously any ideas are good. And this is how we ended up having the opportunity to kind of form Hedron the way that it was, right? Because he was building it as we were talking, and he just kind of liked some ideas and went with it, right? So that's always possible, especially previous to launching. And I think that there will be a period of time that he's going to release a public testing, or maybe a private testing at first, and then maybe a public testing or whatever. But at that time, during those testings, is when he's going to make himself more available and have those chats with us about the things that we see, what we like, what could be different, is there anything that could be added and whatnot, just like he did every other time with everything else that he's done. So I think there will be an opportunity to bring those things to light. And right now, as he's building it, developing it, and putting everything together, we may not have that opportunity. But if I do, then obviously I'll try to throw as many things out as I can that I have a list of shit for, and then see how he feels. Good, right? That he was involving us. Like he's like, you guys had a great idea on this thing. I'd like to implement it. How should we do it? And then he does it, right? And I think that there's a potential for that, but it would be kind of neat to see. So keep those ideas, those opinions, and those things that like we're talking about potential close to heart. And then when we see what the reality of what we're dealing with is, if it makes sense to you, so that it's still a question in that you have, and it hasn't been solved by just testing it and doing the things, then there will be more than enough opportunity at that time to speak up. Like people will be available and listening at that time and taking into consideration what you have to say seriously at that moment, because that is the only time that anything could be changed. After he goes, what do you guys think? Right? If you guys say nothing, then he's going to leave you with exactly what he designed. And that's it. If you give him no opportunity to make things more efficient or better in a way that he sees that it actually is a good idea that you have, then you need to get these things lined up. But we're all sitting here waiting for that moment when Alex may or may not ask us for what our opinions are on the things that he's given us to look at. And I don't just mean us admins, I mean generally all of us. Whenever we get information, you guys get it in a public form relatively at that moment that we're being told about it, or relatively quickly, right? Never ever has Alex ever given us admins more information than what you guys have. Never.
Yeah, that's great to hear, honestly. And I'm sure that his list of things that he's going to do based on our feedback will be short, because he doesn't have like a year just to implement every little detail that we would want or find. He's going to prioritize that. So it would, if you want to make history and you want to, I'm just thinking, if you want to make history, you want to think about all these things right now, write them down. And if you want to, have some great idea that you can share with Alex, you could probably potentially have the opportunity, however small it is, to influence it.
And that question you asked earlier, and I obviously didn't feel too comfortable with the knowledge that I have to answering it about what happens with the endpoints on the migration, right? You might want to swing that question across Nomad. And I hate to put you under to do that to you, Nomad, but why don't you just throw the question out there and see what he says? He may have the same answer I did, but it's always interesting to see his point of view too.
All right. Hey, Nomad, this is Voyager. So my question was about the endpoints or the staking points. If they will reset, they'll migrate over, we'll have the same points. What are your insight and thoughts on that?
Yeah, so whatever state your stake is in, when you migrate, that's how it'll be on the new system. So if you had 100 endpoints, you'd have 100 endpoints on the new system. So it's not going to penalize you or work out some new thing, providing you migrate. Like if you'd have ended now and maybe restart a new one, it could be different, right? But, just migrating over, we just copy it like one for one, essentially. Like the new system will just read the old stake that's being migrated, then allow it to continue as it was.
All right, very good.
Very good. That does make the most sense, because like what I said before, Voyager, that if it was to try to recalculate things, the hex share rate would have moved underneath you and forward, and you're guaranteed that you'd have less endpoints if that was the suggested thing. So I agree with Nomad that's the reasonable way to do it.